didn't find out that my uncle was my donor until I was 11. And I think that was more of my mom's not wanting a little kid running around going, my uncle's my dad, that kind of thing. But I always knew that I was donor conceived. And so I'm very lucky in that aspect. Unfortunately, due to other circumstances that aren't related to my conception, I'm estranged from that side of the family. And so I don't have access to ongoing medical information. I only have what my mom's knew when this happened up until the point of estrangement. So I know, especially with a lot of the more traditional donor conceived people, that they don't get that information at all, or they get what the person told the bank, and that may not be accurate, or they may not know enough, or they may lie. So there's definitely a lot of the same issues with medical history and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, when I just did a quick search, it said the overlap is in navigating secrecy, missing physical mirrors, feelings of loss, wanting to know and identity stuff, like what's my other half, and then the whole medical records stuff, like what am I inheriting from that side that can sneak up on me later on. But the thing that I heard this morning that was interesting to me is that there's a belief that that maternal separation trauma is different. Or maybe it doesn't exist at all. But I think that was mostly leaning towards like surrogacy.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised by my mom who carried me, so I didn't have that same maternal separation. In that time period between when I was born until I was 11, I did kind of have that same sense of longing to know who my dad was, if I inherited certain traits from him, those kind of things. So I think that feeds into the genetic mirroring that we see a lot of adoptees struggle with. And then once I was told, I kind of had this exciting time period where I was like, oh, I can link myself to this. I can link myself to that. I can link myself to that. And my aunt and uncle and their daughter, who's my half sister, who's 5 years older than me, they lived in the same state as me when I was growing up, and they were kind of the only family that was around. So I actually ended up spending a lot of time with them, and I was really close to them. And I'd always begged my parents for a brother or a sister, and you know, they always said, no, you're too perfect. We wouldn't want to try again and not get a perfect child.
Oh, wow.
Which is a lot. I don't think they realize it, you know, that was set out of love, but that's a lot of pressure to put on a child.
Yeah.
Whether you realize it or not. But I was super excited to get a sibling that I had always wanted, and to have it be someone who I was already somewhat close to. And so that was really exciting. And it just sucks that this completely external thing with, I mean, it has to do with my grandfather passing and his will and all that kind of fun family stuff, that we're estranged from them. I haven't talked to my sister in 15 years, which sucks.
So, am I hearing this right? Your siblings are also your cousins?
Yeah, so my biological mom, it's her sister's husband that's my dad. So he's not related to my biological mom, but their daughter is both my half-sister and my cousin.
Yeah, that makes for an interesting family tree.
Definitely.
I mean, that reminds me of like kinship adoption, where it's like, you know, grandma adopted me, so my siblings are also my aunt and uncle or something. You know, it's the dual connections can make things really complicated.
Yeah, and I think like it does kind of give me a leg up in some ways, because if there were to be medical issues that I were to get information from if we were to, you know, reunite, have a good relationship, and I was able to get medical information from her, it may be stuff that I'm actually able to use, because legally she's my cousin, even though biologically she's also my half sister. So I haven't run into it yet, and I haven't ever been denied testing when I should have gotten it, but there's always time. I'm only 35, so you never know.
You never know. Wow. Okay. Yeah, like I have heard, like I said, very little knowledge about this. But I think when I first started thinking about advocating as far as foster care and adoption, it never entered my mind like donor conceived is like a subset of it. Like
Yeah,
what?
I like to kind of say we're cousins, and we could be cousins for all we know.
Right.
In some cases, because we do share some of the similar things. And my moms did try to go through the industry and do donor conception through the industry at first, and they had a couple miscarriages and a couple like just that didn't work out, that didn't take. And I think they were kind of at the end of their rope at this point, and my aunt and uncle came to them and said, you know, we're offering. And my non-biological mom is a nurse, and so they did everything at home, and
Wow.
he went to the back bedroom and did his thing, and then old-fashioned turkey baster method, literally. And so as I've been getting more involved in advocacy in the donor conceived space, I've gone back to my mom and asked questions, and I'm like, was there ever like a contract that was drawn up to make sure he didn't take custody or didn't have to pay child support? And she's like, no, because he wasn't acknowledged as the father. So, you know, luckily nothing happened while I was growing up that would have caused that to happen, but it's a possibility that had things gone differently, there could have been weird custody issues, and, you know, taking a DNA test, he's my father. And so it definitely could have worked out not great in the end, because they didn't go through the protections of the industry.
Right.
However, the industry needs a lot more regulation, which I'm sure you've heard.
Yes, which I have definitely heard. I've been on a deep dive all morning, just since I've really been doing a lot of thinking about this. And yeah, I did watch a video where the lady basically said that she didn't go through industry. She went through a guy that she knows and was like, help me out. And he was like, I don't want to be a parent. I'm just giving you genetic material to do with whatever you will. And I don't want to be involved at all. If you tell the kid or not, whatever. But I'm not a parent. Like, he was so clear, you know? So she was like, okay, great, that works. And then after kid is here, he's having an epiphany and, oh my God, this is my child. He wants 50-50 custody. And it's, she's like, wait, this is not what we agreed to. This is not, what are you doing? And took her to court and did all these things just to kind of be a deadbeat at the end. It's like,
yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, yeah, I think the industry definitely has some of those protections that can save a lot of heartache for those families. And, you know, I was born in the late 90s, I was born in the early 90s. I grew up in the late 90s. And so it wasn't really as talked about, as thought about, that kind of stuff. And so I think they just said, you know, he's not going on the birth certificate. We're not acknowledging him as the father. And I think at the time, you know, their family, we can't imagine them ever kind of having the kind of turnaround that would make them want to try for custody or something like that.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't an issue. He's not on my birth certificate. It's just my bio mom on my birth certificate. It's not both of them. And so my other mom she had permanent legal guardianship, because I know she was taking me to the doctors, doing all that kind of stuff. She was able to sign off on forms and stuff, but she never actually adopted me. Yeah. And I think that's something you see in a lot of, especially same-sex marriages that have a child through donor conception, is that, especially right now with the political climate, that they are pushed to do the second parent adoption because it will protect their rights. And I get that, but at the same time, I know from just understanding the legal process of adoption that even though it protects their rights, it doesn't necessarily protect the child's rights.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's fascinating, and you know, I just feel like because of the overlap, the few areas that we overlap, we should be like on each other's team. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, we should be working together. We should be trying to make sure that, we're not changing birth certificates through adoption, but that we're also getting the correct information on birth certificates for donor conception.
Right.
And that we're attacking parental rights in a different and better, hopefully better way.
Yeah. The person that was on this morning, she's a donor conceived person, and she was basically saying that the whole birth certificate argument actually works against donor conceived, because it's like, yeah, how adoptees are like, don't change the birth certificate, leave the birth certificate alone. Donor conceived are like, let's change the birth certificate because I want my legal parents to be the people that raised me, not are necessarily genetically connected to me. So it's like,
there's got to be and I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's got to be some kind of meet in the middle solution, whether it's, we have some kind of separate certificate that's a certificate of parentage, and then the birth certificate is what gets changed if that's what's going to be best for both communities, or, leave the birth certificate alone and have some kind of other separate certificate that's a certificate of legal parentage that then solidifies stuff. So
yes,
I don't know what the best answer is, but I think that there's definitely got to be a way to meet in the middle.
Yes, we definitely have to keep having conversations and exploring it and see, because if we don't even agree, how can you make demands for change? Yeah.
And I think with having so much overlap, that it makes sense that we would want the same rights for each other.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to drop you from the panel, but if you have any other thoughts or feelings come up, please do request back for an additional 5. People can request an additional 5 as long as live is going. But yeah, I just want to allow space for other folks to kind of chime in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you so much for being here. All right. This is the topic of today, centering the voices of donor conceived. And yes, I am aware that conceived is misspelled. Typo. I do not have an eye for detail. I'll just put that out there. So hopefully it's not driving anyone nuts. Welcome in, Lala. So I just want everybody, please get your daily heart me. Tap the screen, share this out. That is the only way we're going to get more eyeballs in the room chiming in on this conversation. And the more people that chime in, the richer the conversation will be. There is some overlap between donor conceived and adoptees. And I learned what I know so far. I can't say I learned a lot about it. I've learned what I know so far because I attended a conference called Untangling Our Roots. And at Untangling Our Roots, there's an organization called Right to Know. Some donor-conceived people love it, and some donor-conceived people don't. I mean, I think that's true with, people that advocate for or against adoption and foster care as well. But I was so shocked because I thought the conference was about former foster care and adoption. So then to see the banner say, welcome former foster youth, adoptees, and donor conceived, I was like, huh? I was literally like, what? Like, what is, wait, what? Wait, what? I was like, wait, what is this? How is this fitting in? I was confused. I was very confused. But after a 5-day conference and listening to donors as well as people that are donor conceived, I began to be like, wow, there's some serious overlap that I kind of am not shocked by, because me in my early 30s considered donor conception. And me in my early 20s considered being a donor. So basically, me in my early 30s, on my quest of finding the most perfect partner to make a child with, nobody's perfect, and I was like, nope. Like, because you're connected to this person for life. And I was like, there's no way I'm about to be connected to you for life. There's no way I'm about to be connected to you for life. Nope. So getting into my 30s, that's when I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use a donor. That's it. But the reason I didn't at that time was because of watching a documentary where I heard from donor children that said they're missing their other half. They don't know their entire genetic makeup. They don't know where they get certain traits. And as an adopted person, like, I was in foster care, so I had visits with my mom, but I didn't know who my biological father was. I connected with that. Like, oh, damn, I get that. I get that 100%. Because of so many hours I spent in the mirror trying to, like, remove the parts that I think of my face that came from my mother. I'm just missing the reason / oh, no. Is donor conceived spelled incorrectly on purpose? No, it's not. It was a typo. It was a typo. I do not have an eye for detail. I know, it's shocking. I am not perfect, but I'm pretty close. But no, it's just a typo. But anyway, I used to spend hours in the mirror being like, okay, my eyes came from my mom, so remove that. Part of my nose clearly came from my mom, but somebody else. So remove the parts of the nose that are hers. My lips came mostly from my mom, so remove those. And then, okay, what's left? Like, okay, that must be what my dad looks like. I spent a lot of time doing this. And listening to this, watching this documentary, I related to these donor conceived children. Like, wow, I know what that feels like. Would you have considered it if you could have open relationship with the family? That was another thing. So I did look into, you know how people are like, you can find someone to donate. It doesn't have to be an anonymous donor. But then the back and forth and the wishy-washiness of, I want to be involved, I don't want to be involved. That other family wants to be involved, they don't want to be involved. I was like, at the time I was like, nah, that's too much. That's too much, you know, custody battles. And so maybe knowing what I know now, maybe if I were to go back, but at the time I was like, I just need a calm, peaceful life. What doc are you talking about? I just got here. Used to be an IVF nurse. Would love to check it out. Oh, I don't even remember now. This was so long ago. This was like when I was like in my 20s. And I'm 51 now, so I don't remember. I just know I did watch some documentary when I was like in my early 20s about it, and considered it when in my 30s, and then remembered said documentary and was like, actually I can't do it. For, you know, for that reason of knowing how it feels to wonder your entire genetic makeup. Where did I get these traits? Where did I get this face? Where did I get this whatever? My daughter is donor conceived. Okay, welcome in. Welcome in, beautiful crazy. And welcome in, B. Welcome in, everybody. I just want to remind folks, I do love to have a panel discussion. And there are 3 ways to access the panel. They all start with getting your Daily Heart Me. Daily Heart Me says, I'm a fan. You like what we talk about here. You enjoy the space enough that you want to tell other people about it, because word of mouth is powerful. Sharing is caring. And yeah, Daily Heart Me and become a super fan. That's #1 way to access the panel. Daily Heart Me and participate in the live goal or the gift gallery. That is another way to show that you are a high quality engager. And the 3rd way is, there's actually 4 today. Daily Heart Me and share this out 60 plus times or more, which is 1 power share, and tap the screen 60 times. Tap the screen 1K times or more. Now the 4th way is to be get Daily Heart Me and be a donor conceived person. So there are 4 ways to access the panel. I would love to have a panel discussion with folks who have lived experience. Yeah. So what else? Yeah, I do love to have a panel discussion. So let me see who's in the room, and if you want to chime in, because I do want to hear what's on your mind, what's on your heart, what have you seen, what have you experienced, what do you know about the overlaps between donor conceived and adoptees. I want to hear from you. Welcome in, Joey. So yeah, that's the topic of the day. Every Wednesday we will be centering the voices of another aspect of the community. We started out centering adoptee voices, then we were centering former foster youth voices, then we were centering foster parent voices, then we were centering social worker voices, and today, voices of donor conceived. And I am aware there's a typo there, so please show me a little grace. I do not have an eye for detail, but hey, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Someone said, is that on purpose or a joke there? No joke there. Just me. Just me being my human self. Imperfect human self. Perfectly imperfect human self. Yeah. All right. So I do like to give the stats of the room because it shows how much support there is for the room in the room. We're at 8.9K taps. I know we can get that to 10K because every time we hit another 10K, it puts us back on the For You feed. We have 295 shares. So share this out. Sharing is caring, and word of mouth is powerful. We have 9 people in the room. Bravo. And okay, 9K. Hi, Jamie. Thank you for coming back. What else was I going to say? Oh, our daily ranking, I believe, says we are C5 in the top 99%. So I appreciate that. Yeah, C5. Yay, indeed. All right, so if everybody could do a power share, and we can keep this conversation going and flowing, because that is definitely something that I would love to do. And thank you so much for coming back, Jamie. Jamie was here earlier today. And like I said, we're continuing the conversation. Oh, I see it. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. She just spoke on the panel. And yeah, feel free to come up if you have any additional thoughts or feelings that you would like to share. And I was telling people earlier, there are memoirs by people that are donor conceived that we should be reading, because we should be getting information from the people who lived it. Just like as a former foster youth and adoptee, I feel like people need to be learning the industry from me, because I lived it. I survived it. I didn't read about it. I didn't hear about it. I didn't just ask other people questions about it and feel like I'm an expert. I lived it, period. So yeah, it's super important. And I think it's, I am a strong believer in power in numbers. So I think it is super important that we join forces wherever possible to change things to work for the people who live through it. One of my best friends is donor conceived. Okay. So you know a little something about it. Is she on the app? Maybe you could invite her. We'd love to hear from her. All right. What comments, questions, or concerns do people have? What do people know? What do people think? What do people... Are you even aware of the similarities? Like, yeah, the search for origins. People want to know, where did I come from? I have talked to her through my daughter's process. Got it. People want to know where they came from. Another thing that kind of overlaps is navigating secrecy. Just like a lot of adoptees that were adopted at birth are often not told that they were adopted, a lot of donor conceived people weren't told that they were donor conceived, and they just grow up and then turn into a late discovery and an NPE, which I found out at the conference. I'm also an NPE, and I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. Another category that I fit into. Missing physical mirrors. Some donor conceived people like me was like, okay, I know what my mom looks like, but what does my dad look like, and how much of this face comes from there? Brave New Humans by Sarah Dingle is a great book written by a donor conceived person from Australia. Okay, there's a recommendation. Brave New Humans. I need to start a book list. Let me see. Because that'll be, like, I have read adoptee memoirs, I have read former foster youth memoirs, but I have not yet read donor conceived memoirs. All right, let me see. All right, let me see, what was that called? Shoot, go back. Oh, Brave New Humans by Sarah Dingle. Okay. All right, I am definitely open to other book recommendations, so that's cool. All right, cool. Now we have started the list. We got one on the list. Hey, Care Bear, welcome in. We are continuing the conversation from this morning. Thank you for getting your daily heart meat. I am donor conceived from the UK. Welcome in. We would love to hear from you. He also has podcasts. Okay. All right. Thank you for that information, Ali. Wait, who also has a podcast? Wait, hold on. Let me see. I'm scrolling back. All right. Thank you so much for that power share. It's very powerful and strong to do a power share. It's very important. That's how we get more people in the conversation. Of course, I want to hear from donor conceived people, number one, because we are centering donor conceived voices. There is someone from the UK here. I will check your stats, but just by being donor conceived, you fit the bill. All right. An ex-parrot. Please do get a daily heart me if you don't mind, ex-parrot. And yeah, I would love to have you on the panel. Unless you're like, I don't want to be on the panel, and feel free to be like, hard pass, no thanks, maybe next time, I'm busy, whatever. But then I'll know. But as far as your stats so far, you have 2 comments, 0 shares, 0 likes. So usually that wouldn't access the panel, but because of the topic and you are a donor conceived person, you will be automatically added to the panel. All right. Okay, so back to the similarities that I have found. Oh, another one that wasn't in this list that I'm looking at is that along with not knowing who your biological parent is, not knowing how many biological siblings you have. That is sometimes true of adopted people as well as donor conceived people. Now, I think a huge difference is that most adopted people find, can only find so many, right, half siblings, whereas donor conceived people find, oh my God, huge numbers of siblings, just because of the lack of regulations and lies. And lies are just everywhere. Lies are everywhere. Like, oh, we'll only use your genetic material 10 times. Men have been told, we'll only use your genetic material with this many families. Hey, for Frank's sake, welcome in. And then finding out that was not true. And then there's way more than they even realize. I think that is shady. That is some like money, greed type stuff to tell someone, donate your genetic material. Thank you for this finger snaps for Frank's sake. And we will sell it and only use it this many times and then use it way more than that. Beautiful Crazy said, my friend who is donor conceived has found over 30 siblings. That is a lot. Like, I was listening to someone's videos. I listened to a lot of videos today from donor conceived people. And one of them said over 100. Somebody said there was a man talking about, he was 20, he just needed a little money. So he thought, okay, I'm helping out families who want to have a child, and I'm a young college student. And they told him they would only use it with 10 different families. And turned out, it was way more. It's like over 200. That is just, my mind is just blown. Like, that has to be illegal. It's slightly more complicated than that. It's that they don't properly communicate how they are. Okay. Counting families. Heartbreaking. Yes. That is interesting, because when you think, how are you counting families? Maybe they need to be talking about couples or something like that. I don't know. There's so much to it. Dangerous, yes, because I just listened to a video that a lady broke up with her high school boyfriend only to later find out he's her brother. All right, Jamie wants up. Yes. Please give us your intro, name, age, pronouns, and how you're connected to this community. I believe you just told us that you were donor conceived, but just confirm that. And whatever you have to share. Everybody gets 10 minutes to chime in. But of course, if your 10 minutes runs out and you have additional things, you can always request backup. Thank you, Care Bear. You can always request backup for an additional 5. All right. You have the mic, Jamie.
So, Jamie, she, her pronouns. I'm 30, and I'm connected to donor conception because I am donor conceived. I also previously worked as a guardian ad litem, which is like how I found you originally. So it's not that they should count couples, because actually I've worked with banks to reform how they count couples, because their policy was accidentally not being applied equally to same-sex couples as heterosexual couples, because of the way they were counting who could access sibling vials. So there's sibling vials are vials of sperm or additional eggs that you can access to have additional children after you already have one child from the donor. And so who can access sibling vials after, for example, separation or divorce of a couple, right? Technically, banks could count that as one family or 2 families, but that's even a more complicated issue than the base level misunderstanding that allows banks to say that they are following their policy and donors and recipient parents not to understand. So what's happening is that when they talk about a family being established, that's based on reported births. So if you use the donor and you do not report the outcome of your birth, of your pregnancy, right, that it resulted in a live birth, they will continue to sell the donor to additional families beyond the limit. So when they say we have a 40 family limit, what they're saying is once 40 live births to different families have been reported to us, we will stop selling the donor to additional families. If we sold the donor to 80 families between when we started selling the donor and when those births were reported to us, all 80 of those families may use the donor and may access additional sibling vials, despite those births being now reported to us, right? Because they previously purchased the donor. And so that's how you end up with like 200 different families or 200 different children, because between when they started selling the donor and when all of those births were reported, they had sold to more than that number of families.
Wow. Hi, Gail. Welcome in. We definitely want to hear from you.
Oh, I invited Gail. Gail is also donor conceived.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, welcome. Wow. And the whole issue of like what makes up a family. So I think that's fascinating too, because I thought it would just be based on like couples, but not necessarily.
When you get into defining what a family is, I was very involved with not only the writing of Colorado's regulations of donor conception, but the implementation. And so pretty early on, it was decided that we were not going to put a definition of family in the law itself because of the ability to apply that elsewhere, or to take that definition, lift that definition, and try to use it in other states or in other parts of the statute where it could then be used to discriminate against certain types of families. Right. So we decided not to define family in the statute itself. However, because it's regulations, we had to go through rulemaking, which is basically when the agency that's going to oversee the regulations are implementing them. And so they have to decide how they're going to implement them and how they're going to enforce them. And so at that point, we had a lot of conversations around, do we or do we not define family? And for liability reasons, because Colorado's law sets a limit of 25 families if the bank knows or reasonably should have known that 25 families have been established. So because of that, for liability reasons, banks wanted a clear definition of what a family was in the rules. So what we ended up settling on was something like a family is parents and the children they are parenting, or something like that. It was a very broad definition because we needed to ensure that families could have access to sibling files, because in some cases that is how a donor conceived person has a genetically related sibling, whether it's a half sibling or a full sibling. And so to the extent possible, we obviously want families to have access to those vials to be able to continue to build their families.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting that the number, like say it's 25, is not regardless of successful pregnancy or not. It's like only successful pregnancies will be counted, and if they are reported. They're not going to
so it's reasonably should have known in the Colorado law. So that's a slightly higher standard than reported pregnancies. One could argue, and at some point this probably will be litigated, one could argue that it is unreasonable to sell a donor to 75 families, for example, given the likelihood of pregnancy will occur through, whether it's IUI or IVF, in so many families. Like, we know that it takes this many cycles if they sold this many vials. Yeah. There's a way to get an idea of when it becomes unreasonable. Like, the bank reasonably should have stopped selling it. And so it's Colorado's standard is slightly higher than like the 25 family limit. Additionally, the law does allow a donor to request and a bank to agree to a lower family limit. And if they agree to the lower family limit, they also have to adhere to that. There's not a lot of programs doing that, but I do think it's something that more programs will consider doing in the future, because there are donors who are currently not donating because they don't want to have that many families who would donate if the family limit was lower. It's actually a large reason in the studies that we see as to why Black men don't donate, because there's like an idea of like having a lot of like baby mamas, basically, is like the best language I can come up with. And that's looked down upon, and so that's how they equate having all of these different donor families, and they are not comfortable with that. And so it's one of the things that is one of the reasons, there's many reasons, why they are less likely to donate when that's studied.
Wow, I just think it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like, I sold you the genetic material, good luck, go in peace. But I'm not obligated to follow up and see were you successful or not? Like,
well, so that goes into the reasonably should have known.
okay.
There's ways that they can make themselves less liable for not knowing, and some of those things are taking steps to get pregnancy outcome data.
Interesting. And then the whole issue of like donated eggs versus donated sperm versus donated embryos.
Yeah, so the family limit in Colorado has a lot of exemptions. So the law hinges on entities, not individuals, for many, many reasons, including reproductive rights reasons. And so we try to draw a pretty bright red line between regulating individuals and regulating the industry. And so if somebody were to donate outside of the banks, right, the bank is the one who has to maintain the 25 family limit. Exempt from that is a donation, for example, if a donor donates to a friend and then becomes a bank donor, that is a family that is above the 25 family limit.
It's not included. Yeah.
It's not included. Additionally,
sense.
The on donation of embryos. So let's say the sperm donor donates to a bank. Family A buys the vials and creates embryos. They use some of the embryos and they have remaining embryos. They have to do what's called embryo disposition. And there's a few different ways to dispose of embryos. One of them is to donate them for reproductive use to another family. And that would be called on donation. So they have a donor gamete in them, and then you're donating those embryos after you finish family building. Those are also exempt from the family limit.
Wow. So even with the limits, it can still end up being way more.
Yes.
Wow, that is just. And then someone said, "Are family limits bank specific?" So basically, I can donate here this many times and go to somewhere else and start the whole limit all over again. Is that true?
Not in Colorado, no.
Oh, okay.
If they reasonably should know that you have donated elsewhere, they should ask, "Have you previously donated?" And if you have, they would reasonably know that you have 25 families established and you cannot be a donor at their institution. Okay. However,
that's what I was about to say.
Outside of Colorado, yes, family limits are bank specific, but a lot of banks are going to try to avoid using a donor who has donated elsewhere already for many, many reasons, including the fact that it gets them a lot of bad press. It does happen. It does. Donors lie. But they generally will then remove the donor from the program. It was recently discovered, for example, that a donor had been donating at a couple of the major banks, and the banks are offering a refund for that donor. You can switch out the vials for another donor because they would prefer you do not use those vials. It's going to be much more complicated for them. So they're allowing people to change out and pick a different donor. Yes, and somebody said that Colorado is the only state with a family limit. I'm hoping that we will be passing the law in additional states in the next few years. But the parentage law that we were talking about before is step one to passing the regulation. So currently we've been focusing on passing the parentage laws so we can then go back in and pass the additional regulations of the industry. We passed it.
Parentage law meaning like the difference between a donor and a parent, like making
clear. It does a lot of things. The law that I was telling you about before, the Uniform Parentage Act, one of the things that it does is it says a donor is not a parent. It requires banks and clinics to keep and maintain records. So one of the reasons that is helpful to do ahead of trying to pass regulations is it gives us lead time for implementing the law, because let's say we pass it this year and we pass regulations 2 years from now with an additional year for implementation, well, they should have all of the records starting from now. And so there's less of an excuse to continue to push back the deadlines of like, oh, we couldn't possibly maintain these records and blah, 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 blah. So it requires them to keep and maintain records, provide medical information from the time of donation to recipient parents and donor conceived people once they reach adulthood, and to provide the donor's identity to donor conceived adults 18 years or older upon request. And so that we passed last year in Oregon, and we just passed it in Delaware. It's waiting for the governor's signature there. We also have a bill pending in Pennsylvania, but
and what org is this that when you say we?
The U.S. Donor Conceived Council.
Okay. I'm writing this down. Okay.
It's usdcc.org.
Okay, cool.
Allie just actually started volunteering with us too.
Nice. All right.
So I'm super excited about that.
I just feel like if there's any way we can join forces and not go against each other, because I just so strongly believe in power in numbers that we should be trying to figure that out.
Yeah, we work really well with adoptees. One of the people we worked with in Colorado actually spoke. You were telling me that he was there, and I told you if he said it, listen to him. It was Rich Erlop.
Mm-hmm.
I just spoke to him the other day because technically Delaware does not have open adoption records, but our bill flew through with open records for donor conceived people, and there is not currently an adoptee group in Delaware, but I do think Delaware is now in a position where they are more open to sharing this information with children born through either donor conception or adoption, but there just needs to be some movement to open those records. Currently, it's an opt-out where they contact the the birth parents and ask them, and if they don't respond within a certain period of time, then they release the records. But I think that you could, so that's called, I think, from my understanding, a mediated system. I think that they are ready to just go to open birth certificates, but obviously there's organizing and work that would need to be done by adoptees there.
Right. And someone, let me see, who was that? Someone asked for the website again.
It's usdcc.org.
Beautiful Crazy did. All right, let me catch up in the chat really quickly. Joey said, thanks for sharing so much great information. Yes, I agree with that for sure. Aliut said, and I believe Colorado is the only state with family limit in law. I thought more. I don't know.
So there's more states that have passed the Uniform Parentage Act. Colorado is the only state that has a family limit currently. So Colorado, back in 2022, passed two different laws. They passed what's called Marlowe's Law. Marlowe's Law is their version of the Uniform Parentage Act. They had previously adopted many portions of it already, and so they really just needed to adopt certain parts of it. So that's what Marlowe's Law is. And then after they passed Marlowe's Law, that same session, they passed what's called the Donor Conceived Persons and Families Protection Act. And that is what does some of these other things we've been discussing. The family limit, it previously did more. Banks have been trying to repeal it. Well, one bank. So it used to require that banks contact the donor every 3 years for medical updates. It now requires that they keep and maintain any medical information and updates that is provided to them.
If they reach out.
Should they reach out. But honestly, even that is an improvement from what's currently going on, because I know so many donors who reach out and the banks won't take the information, like they won't write it down.
Wow.
And so even forcing them to record and maintain the information is an improvement to the current system. And they have to also do that for donor conceived people and recipient parents who reach out with medical updates. So if I were to report my medical history to the bank, they need to keep and maintain that and provide it to anybody who requests information from that donor.
Okay.
It sets a cycle limit for egg donors to 6 cycles. It requires educational materials be provided to both donors and recipient parents. Those materials are actually on my page, like in my videos.
Yeah. Go follow her, y'all. Get more information, for real.
I'm trying to think what else it does. Requires medical, the information be retained, and it sets up licensure. That's like another big thing where they have to apply to operate in the state and get a license, and then they have to renew the license. And if they do not follow these things, they can be fined and their license can be revoked and so on and so forth, which creates a level of accountability that has previously been missing from the industry.
Yeah. I see for Frank's sake said, it's also wild to me. We looked into it years before we had our kids, and there was no way. So I know we have picture ear way longer than 10 minutes, and I appreciate you being here big time. I'm going to drop you from the panel, and then if you have any additional, please do request up for an additional 5. But I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for coming back from this morning. Because, it's just like with adoption and foster care. There's so much wrong information out there, and just information based on Hallmark syndrome. Oh, it's going to be wonderful. Oh, you're helping a family, or you're going to be a family. And it's like, to me. Beautiful Crazy said, we don't have a bank in the state I live in, so I use one out of state. Interested in the national laws. Right. Same. I mean, that's the same with like foster care and adoption. Like, it's so different state to state. There are no federal mandates, or very few federal mandates. Yes, that was great information. So everybody go follow Jamie, for real, to get more information. And I'm super interested in the overlap that exists within the two communities, and how we can help each other, because there is power in numbers. There's power in numbers. Jamie said that's very common because 5 banks make up 90% of swimmer donation in the U.S. Only 5? Like, that's insane. I just watched a video earlier today about a couple getting the wrong embryo. Like, oops. Writing the information on the vials or whatever, and it got mixed up. And they ended up with the baby that was clearly someone else's. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. So there's this kind of like, so do we keep it? Like, after all that, I guess they did. I don't know. It didn't talk about what happened after that, but they were definitely, I believe, suing where they got the embryos from. They do not need to be located in a state to be regulated in a given state. They only need to be, the woman carried to terms, right, someone else's embryo. She was basically like forced into surrogacy, but not exactly, right? Doing business in the state. They only need to be doing business in the state. Whew. Yeah, there's a lot definitely to unpack, and there's a lot of ways that we can support each other. That is something I am super, super interested in. Yeah. It is great to know. It is great to know. So yeah, every week I will be centering the voices of some aspect of this community, what do we going to call it? Unconventional family creation, which includes foster care, adoption, and donor conceived. Will be every Wednesday. And if you care about this information, if you care about this type of conversation, please by all means do Listen to the voices of people with lived experience. Read our memoirs. That goes for former foster youth, adoptees, and donor conceived. I have contact with my daughter's dibblings. That's a new one for me. Some of them, and lots of questions and info shared. Very interesting. Wow. Yeah, listen to the voices of those of us that have lived through it. And what else? Oh, and as far as supporting the space, tap the screen, share this out, participate in the gift gallery or the live goal if you can. Of course, that is not mandatory, but it is highly appreciated by yours truly. And yeah, let's keep this conversation going and flowing. We have 6 people in the room. We have 16.5K taps, 465 shares, and our league is a C5 at 80%, so that's pretty good. Just a little bit more stats. We've been live for 1 hour and 16 minutes. We've had 112 views, 4 new followers. The goal is always 5, 6 gifters. This live has made a total of 19 cents. That is what I call true transparency. So thank you so much to everybody who is here contributing to the space, saying, you know, I want more people to join this conversation. The more we share, the more people get to see what's going on and be in on the conversation, because so many people have bad information or no information at all. Dibblings is considered offensive to some donor-conceived people. Would recommend using donor sibling instead. Okay, good to know, because I had never even heard of it in my life until right now. That's just like I've heard some people say about foster care and adoption, mostly people that have spent any time in orphanage, crib mates. And I was kind of like, ugh, that sounds kind of, ugh. It's how the donor-conceived people refer to their donor siblings. So some people may be offended and some people may not care. And I think that's true for most terms. But if you are not a donor-conceived person, I would be careful about that. Yeah, because we never want to offend without even realizing that we're being offensive. That's what I would like to believe. I appreciate that. It is the word I was told by the group. All the children are under 10. Oh, so kids under 10, you're using it. And maybe that's okay for them, but, you know, it's that whole thing. If you're not a part of that group, maybe you should just leave that to them. That's my guess. All right. So, yeah, I think this is definitely a conversation that we'll be having again. It'll be an ongoing. Beautiful Crazy said, absolutely, yes. It will definitely be an ongoing conversation. I will do a better job reaching out to people before day of. I'm kind of a new host. You know, I've been doing this since last September and really just trying to find my sea legs, so to speak. And it has been quite the journey, to say the least. I usually like lives to be between 2 and 3 hours long. Jamie said, yes, I think language is also mediated by families. It's just a note for public discussions with donor-conceived people. Yes. Thank you, Ian. That is my wife. Love you. Thank you. But yeah, I get that too, because what's okay within the family may not be okay outside of the family, depending on who you are talking to and what assumptions may be being made. Yeah. So yeah, language is very important. Someone even told me, you know, I'm always like, we're looking for quality engagers, and somewhere the engager dropped and I was like, we're looking for quality, and then it was coming across like I was saying some people are quality and other people are not, when all people are quality. But yeah, it's important to be clear. Beautiful Crazy, definitely not saying you shouldn't use it for your family and dibbling pod just in this space, because you never know who's in the room. I'm fully aware I'm learning and trying to be sensitive. Awesome. I think that's fantastic. I think that's fantastic. Then I know what I'm doing and you can't, some people have some major pushback. Some people don't take, corrective suggestion well. So I feel like you are, and I appreciate that big time. All right, let me see. Who else is in the room that we have not heard from? Oops. All right, just move this over just a hair here. Okay, let me see. Who have we not heard from? Let me see. We haven't heard from ex-parent. I believe an ex-parent said that they are donor conceived. We would love to hear from you. The first step is that daily heartbeat. And if you are unable, let me know. Because, I'm flexible. Let me see. All right, no daily heartbeat yet, but 2 comments, no shares, no likes. Okay. Yes, thank you, EM. Show some love for the host. Thank you. Like, for seriously. I mentioned them before us earlier today. Oh, did you? Okay. And remember, if you have been on the panel, you can always request back to the panel for an additional 5, as many times as you like. It's just to keep the rotation going. They are honestly on my last nerve. What? Wait a minute. What? Who's on your last nerve? Oh, all right. I know, right? Right? I'm going to actually invite you back up for an additional 5 because I'm like, what? Who's on your last nerve and why? All right, hold on. Let me start your timer. And if you don't mind doing your intro over, just in case there are people in the space who didn't hear it the first time. You got the mic.
Yeah, so I'm Jamie, she, her pronouns. I'm 30 and I'm donor conceived.
There you go.
Okay, so the organization is called Them Before Us. And it's the group that I was telling you about that is one of the groups involved in this extremist coalition trying to overturn marriage equality. But they also, like, if you go to their website, they oppose adoption, donor conception, surrogacy. Like, they want to get rid of it completely, which is very weird, to be honest, because the founder of the organization has an adopted child. Like, the whole thing. Anyway, she also has a lesbian mom who divorced her dad, got remarried to her current partner, and has been with that person for like 30 years. But this person does not. So this person does not want LGBTQ parents. So they oppose donor conception, surrogacy, adoption, same-sex parenting, and divorce. That's what this organization does. And so they also are really, so the majority of donor conceived people want absolutely nothing to do with this organization because, like I was saying earlier, they are opposing our legislation, and they have a long history with our community of stealing our stories and manipulating studies that say one thing, because it's very nuanced, right? So, like, for example, if a donor conceived person says that they want to know the donor's identity, that doesn't inherently mean that they want to contact the donor. And it doesn't mean, for example, that they don't, even if they want to contact the donor, that doesn't necessarily mean that they want an ongoing relationship with the donor. Well, they just take the studies that say that a majority of donor conceived people want, for example, to know the donor's identity, and they say, like, no, donor conceived people wish they were raised by their donor and suffer from mother and father hunger and, like, all of these things that is just not substantiated. And the majority of donor conceived people, based on the research we do have, do not support. Like, that is just not the lived experience of donor conceived people. And so for a long time, like more than a decade, donor conceived people have not engaged with this organization. And so what they were doing before that worked was they were misrepresenting who they were, asking donor conceived people to give them their stories. And because donor conceived people historically have not had their voices heard in fertility spaces, they were happy that somebody was even asking for their thoughts on being donor conceived and would give them the story. And then it would show up on this website and people would have to send them cease and desist and all of these things trying to get their story taken down. Well, people have wised up to this, and we deeply vet everybody we interact with and share our stories with.
Yeah.
So what they've started doing is going on Reddit and taking people's like community facing posts. So there's like a Reddit called r/donor conceived. So it's donor conceived people asking for support from other donor conceived people in an anonymous form, right? So often it's people in some level of crisis. For example, there was a story on there recently of a woman whose mother was dying of cancer, and that person learned they were donor conceived while their mother was on hospice. And they were not genetically related to her, and they were asking for support in how they cope with this and see their mother to the grave while dealing with all these feelings of betrayal and deception, and learning that they're donor conceived and the identity stuff with that. And that person is obviously in a crisis at that point.
Right.
So this organization takes stories like that and many other community-facing requests for help and posts them on X and Facebook, and allows a bunch of other non-donor conceived people to get in the comment section and judge people and ridicule donor conceived people and say things like, oh, donor conception, this is why donor conception should never happen, which is, again, not the opinion of the majority of donor conceived people.
Right. I'm not saying that.
So they get in the comments and they say all these things because nobody will talk to this organization anymore. So they've taken to just taking anonymous stories off Reddit and reposting them and using them for their own political agenda. And I think it's absolutely disgusting. I cannot imagine, because the other thing is people don't know that that's what they're going to be facing when they're asking for help on Reddit. They didn't ask for it to be shared to thousands of people on other platforms. And so it's just so frustrating, and they are getting so much funding all of a sudden.
Oh, well, we know who from. We have an idea who from.
Yeah, well, so it's a lot of right-wing groups. They are very well, so they have what's called the Greater Than campaign, which is like their campaign to overturn marriage equality. And so I think that they have like over $1 million in funding this year, which is just absolutely insane when nobody likes them. Nobody wants to work with them. And we're like, at this point, a non-profit, all volunteer organization fighting against this. For us, that's a rather large organization that is just trying to use our community to harm our families.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know what to say, but I feel so bad for the people who are asking for help from other donor conceived people, and then having these weirdos steal their story and then promote their story and their words on other platforms through paid ads, saying that they shouldn't exist.
Yeah, that is wild. Thank you so much for that. I definitely made note of it, and yikes. I mean, I do feel like that's the same as, like, you know, adoptees, and how, you know, Right to Life will be like, this is proof why adoption is amazing and why women should not have a choice. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, wait. These are two different things here. It just feels like an act of desperation.
And it's honestly why you're seeing a lot more surrogacy stories right now, because of all of this, like, marriage equality stuff. Because they're trying to make, like, gay men having children the next, like, trans women in sports. kind of culture war issue.
Right.
And so they found all these like random videos. Recently they found a video of a baby. I mean, like, I think the baby was under 6 months old. And the baby is just babbling. And the babbling sounds like the child is saying mama, right? But the child has 2 dads. And at that age, developmentally would not have a schema for...
Right, to wish for a mama.
Yes, exactly.
And be told,
but then
oh, you
all
don't
of
have
these people
one.
were making all of these commentary videos saying that, oh, they're denying the child their mom because they are a same-sex couple. It was just all crazy because the child could not possibly, like, the child does get upset in the video, but it's because the father keeps saying no in a joking way to the kid because they're like, no mama here, no mama. And so that's why the baby is like, kind of starts pouting, right? But it's not because it's just a joke video. Like,
yeah,
it's hard to explain, but like, if you see it, you'll be like, oh, that child is clearly too young to have any sort of it's like how, you know, very young children who are talking, they'll like point at a cat and say dog because it's 4 legs and furry.
And it's easier to say dog.
Yes, and they don't understand that that's actually a different animal because it has 4 legs and it's furry. Yeah. It's the same concept, but this child is even younger than the age that occurs at. Like, it's just so absurd.
Yeah, and that's, yeah. I mean, I feel like that video could be used for a case for open adoption. Like, okay, let's keep birth mother involved in some sort of way, but I don't think it should be used as a reason that there should be, this whole entire community should be wiped out and unregulated or...
Well, and honestly, we don't know if their surrogate is involved in their lives.
Exactly.
We don't know anything about their lives.
Yeah, we don't know.
There's just random people on the internet whose video got taken by these crazy people.
Yes.
And then, I mean, every right-wing commentator was talking about this. And they've just been doing that with like video after video after video. They had a street interviewer go up to a guy and they got in a fist fight with the couple because he went up to a couple holding a baby, a gay couple, and then started calling them PDF files and saying that they were going to harm the child that they were holding.
Because they want to be...
And so, of course, the fathers thought that man was a threat to them. Like, they're holding a very small baby, and this man is coming over saying that they're going to...
Craziness.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, welcome in, Care Bear. Wow. Well, thank you so much again. Thank you so much again for being here. I appreciate you big time.
So the one thing I want to say is...
Sure.
I think that you are seeing more of this in the media. I want people to take that with a grain of salt and go and look for actual donor conceived people and actual surrogacy born people. Yes. Because it's not an accident that you're seeing all of these stories in the media all of a sudden.
Right.
It's not organic.
Right. That I do believe because Hallmark syndrome is just spread far and wide, and there's billions and billions of dollars put into shaping the narrative of all of it, as far as foster care, as far as adoption, and of course donor conceived is what it means to be a donor, what it means to be a donor conceived adult. It is, yeah, it's strong out there as far as Hallmark syndrome. Like, oh, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, you're creating a family, you're helping someone, yeah.
And the opposite. That's what we're experiencing is a lot of stigma right now, and the opposite, where it's bad, it's harmful. They keep comparing us to people born through rape and smincest.
Yeah, wow.
Because they think that it's a sin to use donor conception and surrogacy. So we're hearing a lot of that. Honestly, for our advocacy, it hasn't really affected us because our argument is just like, should those children have less rights because of the nature of their conception? No, you don't believe that. Okay, so why should we have less rights based on the nature of our conception? But we're hearing that more and more. It's almost the opposite of Hallmark. We had Hallmark
right.
for a long time from the industry.
And now it's switched.
But now we're having the opposite.
That makes sense. Ooh. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. I will drop you down, and then, like I said, if you have any other thoughts or feelings to share, request up for an additional 5.
I was gonna say, can you keep her up here?
Oh, okay. She'll come back up if she wants to. Care Bear, let's get your intro and your thoughts and your feelings on donor conceived. And basically what I'm really mostly interested in is the overlap between adoption and donor conceived and how we can support each other, because I'm a strong believer that there is power in numbers. And intro, and you have the mic.
I'm Kira. I'm 51, she, her, a part of the community because I worked with families experiencing homelessness. A lot of times they had DCF involved in their life. That's what we call it here, DCF. I also worked with families with reunification, and I'm very close with an organization here that works with youth aging out of foster care. The CEO is actually one of my very dear friends. First, I just wanted to say, Jamie, she looks very young. I don't know, how old did she say she was? I didn't hear that.
I think she said 30.
Oh my goodness. The things she's doing at 30 and her knowledge is, I just sat here in awe. Awe.
Yes.
A 51-year-old woman sitting here in awe. And I've done lots of stuff for homelessness, and I've been an advocate and a voice, and there's so much wisdom in her.
Yes.
So glad that she's a part of the team.
Same.
Can't wait to hear more from her and learn more. I learned so much, and I had to step away for a minute, so I'm sorry that I missed part of it. I wish these were recorded and I could go back and watch it, because I was just sitting here on the edge of my seat listening to every word of all the things that she's doing, how knowledgeable she is, and I learned so much from the time that I was able to be here, and just, it's so amazing. Like, that's the team members that we need. And I agree with you that we need to team up together, because I know, like we talk about in my county is very unique, where a lot of times nonprofits try to be in a silo because they're all fighting for funding. And in my county, it's very different. We're very collaborative, and collaboration is where you get to goals that make a difference, where you can push things across a finish line when you collaborate with each other. So I absolutely agree with you that collaboration is key, because a lot of the things that adoptees and foster care kids and donor conceived, there's overlap, right? There is a lot of overlap. And I think that when there's overlap like that, collaboration is where you go. You go directly to collaboration. How can we support you? How can we support you? And then talking about some of the bills, how do we make sure this is good for both parties? Because sometimes I think she sounded very intentional about things that she put into the bill. And I love that she was trying not to hurt other families by making a definition. And so I think that's where the collaboration becomes key, is like, we don't want to put something in there that helps donor conceived but harms adoptees or foster care. We want it to benefit everybody in a way that's positive. So I don't know much about donor conceived, other than like I've seen in the media where, like you guys talked about, the danger of so many kids coming from one donor. And then, like you said, like, I'm dating somebody and I didn't know they were my brother or my half brother.
Yeah.
And you've seen that. And so that is, dangerous. And, also to a child, like, that's trauma. You're creating, like, they didn't know when they started dating, like, but that creates trauma that they now have to, like, go seek help. You know what I'm saying? Like, how would you feel if that was the situation that you were put into, but you had no knowledge of it? It's just, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. So, I don't really have more to say. I just, like I said, I've seen her on here before because I've followed her. But I definitely would love to see more of her here. And she brings so much to the table. And like I said, well, I'm just going to say, if she's 30, she doesn't look 30, girl. I don't know what your skincare is, but I need to know because you look way younger than 30.
But sounds much older.
Yeah, she, like, I think one of the things I was like, you have knowledge, like, you are a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
That was one of my comments. And, like, I would love to be a mutual with you because I think some of what I do probably intersects too, because, you know, I'm working with vulnerable populations that are, you know, experiencing homelessness. And I think there's an intersection there as well, you know? So we say that donor conception sits at the intersection of most major social. Yes, I agree. I definitely agree, Jamie. Like, all these things intersect. And the more they intersect, the more we need to create a community of all of them to work together for the betterment of all of the communities. Jamie, thank you for following me. I really appreciate it. I really was excited about that because I really want to be in your orbit because, like I said, it is, you don't, like, there's a lot of people on here that are very smart. You're one of them, and it's very important to keep yourself in orbit with people that are like-minded, that are mission-minded, and that have the follow-through and the knowledge to advocate and that have a voice, because we have to keep encouraging each other, because that work can be very, it can be very hard. If it's a very heavy load on your shoulders, and we have to support each other, and we have to keep being an ear for and saying, I agree with what you're saying. Yes, let's support that. And so I think that, did you mean to make me big? I was like, please don't make me big.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, no, that's not, no, we don't need to do that. I'm aware of some cases out of California where egg donors who were unhoused at the time of donation. Yes, it's all intersection.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Because they need the money.
And if you want to come back up and please talk, like, I would love to hear you more. And, like, what I was trying to say, though, before I interrupted, but, like, we have to support each other because the load we carry, being the voice and the advocate for other people, is heavy. We see trauma that most people will never see, because when you're an advocate and you hear the stories and you walk alongside those people, that is trauma that you are walking alongside with them. And that is trauma on your body. And you need the support of other people that understand the toll you take on when you decide to become a voice like this, because you will get negative people arguing with you over and over again. And so we have to be here for each other. We have to be advocates for each other, and we have to support each other, and we have to encourage each other to continue to be that voice. And sometimes we have to encourage somebody to be like, you've done what you can do, and it has taken a toll on you, and now it's time to step back and do it in a different way, where your body is not traumatized anymore. And that's what I did. I ended up stepping into a new role to solve the problem of homelessness by becoming a developer that develops properties for people experiencing homelessness. And that allowed me to step out of a role of direct advocacy. And now I can just do the advocacy when I decide I want to do it, or I find a case that is compelling to me. And I'm willing to put my own personal time into this.
Nice. Let me just catch up on some of the comments. Jamie said, I'm aware of some cases out of California with egg donors who were unhoused at the time of donation. The clinic then did not pay donors. Like, what? We were able to find them pro bono representation, but even that has been challenging for them to follow through on because of their living situation. Yeah, I thought donation always came with payment, so that's news to me. Yeah, and as we know, racism is in everything. I remember being a young 20-something and having a coworker who was a young 20-something who was like, oh yeah, I do it all the time, you know, because she was young with blonde hair and blue eyes and very attractive, and she was telling me how much money she was getting. And, you know, I didn't know anything. I was like 21, you know, and I was like, what? Like, I got some eggs. No one was interested. Nobody was interested. They're like, that's okay. So
I just want to also like support you in the statement that you made. Racism is in everything, even in today. Like, anybody that says that it's not, I'm sorry. Like, deconstruct. I know I am working on it, but like I said, Jamie, if you want to come up and talk some more, please. If there's nobody else that has a 5 minutes or something, I would love to hear more about what she has to say.
Yeah, Jamie just said they should have been paid. The clinic had an agreement to pay them. Okay, that makes sense. I thought you were saying like they agreed that they weren't getting paid, but that makes sense. They're like, well, we don't know where to send the money. We don't know where they live. So, oh well. Yeah, community in this situation. Yeah, that's just foul. That's just theft at that point. That's just stealing. That's just straight up medical theft.
And it may have happened because they knew they were a vulnerable person and they don't have the means to come back after that.
Like, what are you going to do?
You know, and I know in our community we have like different organizations where they can get their mail, they can register their mail, they can have that address on their driver's license. Look up Lane Fertility Institute. Yeah, institute, sorry.
Yeah, I will. But yeah, that's so not cool. You know, anytime money is involved, there's going to be greed, right? There's going to be somebody who is greedy and looking for loopholes and way to maximize profit and get over on somebody. And
I also tagged you in a video, and it was talking about the missing, what was it called? It was talking about how DCF, again, I use DCF because that's what it's called here in Florida, where they're like they're trying to make it look like they don't have as much children in the system by placing them with a relative that then doesn't get the support they should get, and they don't teach them about guardianship, all these different things. Please look at that video that I tagged you in.
I'll look at it.
Because it is a lot of what you talk about, but it's a different angle because they're talking about, it was the missing something is what they called it. I mean, I know in development we call the missing middle, like we aren't developing enough for the middle, people in the middle, but it was very relevant to everything we talk about, but a very different take that I have not heard us talk about on here.
Okay.
And
I'll look for it.
It essentially makes the DCF look better because it doesn't look like those kids are in the system, and they bypass teaching. So the family members don't get the education, don't get the training, don't get the benefits of potential help with like payments, like for the child. They don't get they don't talk to them about guardianship or any of those things, and it's a real big issue.
Okay, I will definitely look for that video for sure. Ooh-wee. There's a lot to cover here. Jamie said there have been stories written about some of her issues. She is constantly dancing on this app. Tag me in a video, Jamie. I'd love to see. But yeah, Care Bear, being a super fan, you can totally hang out on the panel. EM, did you want to chime in on this?
Hi, EM 49. They connected to the community because married to you, the host. and learn about foster care and adoption from you and from the panel and lived experience. And now have this huge, mind-blowing dilemma in my brain around donor conceived, and so glad that Jamie and other people have shared. And so glad part of the community. And with that, I mean, I know this morning it was a wealth of knowledge and notes should have been taken, but we do have the live and we can go back.
Yeah.
And especially get these book recommendations that are in the chat. And yeah, no, I don't have anything.
But you said mind-blowing. What about it is mind-blowing? I thought I heard
Just the continuation from earlier this morning, just learning about the work that Jamie is doing, the laws that need to change, and the fact that it needs to be, on a federal level. And just hearing Jamie and saying, like, the advocacy work that they're doing out there in Colorado, that's one state.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. And then also, a lot of the mind-blowing is this other place that I was trying to follow the organization from Jamie, which one is the one that's like getting the stories from Reddit, and it's sad that these people exist, like,
so greedy,
and that this is their mission. This is what they're doing, instead of really just educating themselves more, and just hearing around, it being marriage equality being affected, and that's the reason, for the reason why I guess in their reasoning, it shouldn't exist. Along with the other list that I heard Jamie mention.
Right. And there's some comments I just wanted to say out loud. Jamie said, I'm about to launch a Substack to start talking about this more, which is awesome. I'll keep an eye out for that. And then Jamie said, no, it must be on a state level because parentage is family court. We cannot regulate federally at this time without first enacting parentage protections.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot to learn about what affects what, when pursuing certain changes. I mean, even when we're pursuing protections for former foster youth and adoptees, we have to then consider how does this affect donor conceived as well, right?
Right.
Because the whole conversation earlier about the birth certificate was kind of like eye-opening for me. Like, maybe we need to pursue this in a different way, to not then cause harm to our comrades, which they should be our comrades. So, yeah.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, that's it. That's all I have.
Well, I appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for chiming in.
Yeah, just waiting for this floor to dry so I can let the pups in, and then I'll be on my way.
Yay. See you soon.
All right, see you soon.
All right.
Oh, I gotta go to the cats again.
Oh, for the PM. That's right. Yes, Care Bear. Let me give you an additional 5, Care Bear. You definitely got it. Do your intro just in case there's someone watching from the FYF trying to decide if they want to come in or not.
I'm Kira, 51, she, her, part of the community because I worked with families experiencing homelessness, and a lot of times DCF was involved. I also worked with families on their final step of reunification when housing was the last piece of that. I just wanted to say, it sounds like this morning and today were very good lives. I don't know if you do this, but if you can you can, and obviously, you can go back and look at your live, but you can clip that and make them into TikToks. Yes. I don't know if you currently do that.
Sometimes I do.
Okay, it sounds like these ones would be really good because Jamie brought a lot of knowledge, and if you can go through and try to clip certain points where she's talking, and again, if she's okay with that.
Right, that's the thing. I have to make sure people are cool with that.
Typically when somebody comes on your live, they're giving consent, but I would say Jamie is a valuable member, so I would absolutely ask for permission to clip her and make sure you tag her in it. So she's getting the credit for her piece of that. But if she's okay with it, I think there's several parts of what she was talking about that are very knowledgeable that would be helpful to TikTok. And when you clip it, you can also make sure to say, please go like, support, and follow her. She's doing amazing things. So it could be very helpful to her as well. But I think there's, and it's hard to clip, you got to try and figure out the length and what's going to work. But the moment, I don't know, she said the moment. But
there's something ahead of that.
Intentional implications from
those bills.
The moment. Anyways, I would just say that if Jamie's willing and okay with you clipping them and tagging her and asking people to go follow her as well, that could create more followers for her. But a lot of what she said was very knowledgeable. And if you can clip it in a way that is enticing for people to watch the TikTok and it's not too long, I requested again to clarify. So anyways, and if there's something this morning, I'll and when I was going live, everybody always was like fine with me clipping stuff. And so I had an open consent to it. They all had told me verbally they were okay with it. So I did do that from time to time, especially when we had a series that was really good. I would clip and I would make it into a series. So I would have taken what Jamie said if she'd give me consent, and I would have made it a series and said, this is part 1, this is part 2, so that they weren't too big, too long. Right. And people could digest it. And if they liked part 1, they'd be like, oh, let me go look for part 2. Right. But anyways, I think that it sounds like there was a lot of knowledge from these 2 lives. And I think maybe some of the other ones that you could do a series on. And I'll be quiet now and let Jamie take over.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Care Bear. All right, let me stop Care Bear's time. Super fan Care Bear, by the way. And Jamie, let me give you an additional 5. I know you said there was something you wanted to clarify. So you have the mic. If you can do your intro again, just in case there's someone who didn't hear
Jamie, she, her, I'm 30, I'm donor conceived. I was just asking that if you can refrain from clipping information about the Pennsylvania legislation at the time, that would be helpful to our efforts there. If you could just leave that out. I also want to flag that from personal experience and the experience of other people working in the parentage space, if you talk about them before us online, it is not uncommon to get on a live, I don't know how to say that.
I get you loud and clear.
Yes. And some of their people are really, really wild. They will find out very personal information, like what school bus your children ride on, and call you and threaten you with that information. So I would just be aware that it's one thing to talk about on a live, it's another to put it on your channel and have it get back to them, because they will share it across all of these other platforms, and you may have some very
I get you.
Yeah.
And to me, that just screams how much money is at stake, because and just like, I don't know, that screams how much money is at stake. That's what
they complain 24/7. An article about the founder of that organization ran in the Seattle Times recently, and she bitched and complained all over social media about, quote unquote, them doxing her. They did not dox her. A journalist doesn't dox people. They didn't.
Just stating the facts.
Yes, exactly. From the community that she's based in, nobody was doxed. But they are very, very quick to dox and harass people. and to direct people to harass you.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That is definitely good to know. Because, yeah, you know, I'm all about raising awareness and educating people. Hi, Rebellious Joy, welcome in. And certain topics can attract people you'd rather not even interact with, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, that's just like if I were talking about a specific adoption agency and what they're doing. I'm pretty sure they would come at me full force, you know? So, yikes. That's all I can say.
I mean, there's so many things. They got $100,000 from the Heritage Foundation last year to create this database, which they're calling the Children's Rights Scorecard. It first of all, their scorecard says that the UPA is bad for children. Empirically, the UPA is good for children. Like, it gives children more rights to the people raising them. It does in a number of different ways, but particularly for donor conceived and surrogacy born children and ART children more generally. So in Delaware, last year they had to pass a standalone bill for a single family because a couple was undergoing IVF and the father died in a car crash the week they were supposed to do their embryo transfer. The woman, a couple months after his death, went on to do the embryo transfer and have the child. But because this law, the Uniform Parentage Act, had not been updated since 2000 in Delaware, the father of the child, who passed away before the child was born, was not recognized as the child's legal parent. And the father was not placed on his birth certificate, and he could not receive Social Security death benefits from the father because he was not the father's legal child. So they had to pass a standalone bill to fix this and place that one father on the birth certificate in Delaware last year.
So he could be then the legal father as well as the DNA
and make
father.
him the legal father. But there's so many families that, for whatever their life circumstances are, do not get their issue like that in front of their legislator. And so it's good that they fixed it for that one family, but that's one of the things that the Uniform Parentage Act, which we just passed there this year, fixes. It says that if a child is born through assisted reproduction, more generally, that's not donor conception or surrogacy, after a parent has passed away, for a set number of months after that, they can inherit and are considered the child for Social Security death benefits and all of the rest of it. And so it does a lot of really important things for children. This organization says it doesn't, and so if they've enacted it, they actually give them a worse score. And then they don't like Colorado's law for whatever reason. They gave Colorado like a terrible score on donor conception, which makes zero sense.
Yeah.
And then you can look at it. It's just a bunch of things.
Yeah,
and then
I will.
Beyond that, it's just inaccurate. That's the other thing. They got so much money to write a document that is not even accurate. Like, there's just blatant misstating of statute in it. Like, when you look at it, it's just wrong. And so they have a lot of issues.
Yeah. And on purpose. It's not accident, I don't think. When there's a lot of misinformation, it's not ignorance. This is my belief. It's usually on purpose to mislead because there's an agenda.
Yes, and without launching into a very long additional explanation, I think it's also the lens at which they look at things through. They are misunderstanding one of the provisions in the Uniform Parentage Act to say that people can have sexual intercourse and conceive a child for genetic surrogacy and that be considered genetic surrogacy. It actually says the exact opposite, very directly in the law. And basically, you have to use assisted reproduction like IUI. You cannot have intercourse
just a friend,
or genetic surrogacy. It's what it's actually saying is that if there is an allegation that the child was not conceived through IUI the way that they were supposed to, the surrogacy agreement is void, and you do not need to compensate the surrogate for surrogacy anymore unless the contract says otherwise, if that is proven to be true, that the child is not conceived through assisted reproduction. And the reason it says that is because if the child was not born through the procedure, the surrogate had sex with somebody, and that person has a parentage claim to their child. So you can't say, oh, because this woman was in a surrogacy agreement and had sex with you, you don't get to be the parent of your child anymore. No, that's not how that would work, right? And so the surrogacy agreement is void because the child is not related to the people it's supposed to be related to, right? That's what it says. It does not say that it allows it unless the agreement says it doesn't allow it. No, but I truly think that they believe that it says what they're saying it says.
Right.
Because they believe that it is inherently unethical, and so they view everything initially from that lens. It's not, does this make sense in terms of surrogacy agreements and how surrogacy in this would function? They view it as, this is unethical, so they must be trying to sneak in some other unethical provision, like you can have sex to have a child through surrogacy, which is absolutely not what the bill says.
Okay, wow.
I know that's like a very confusing explanation,
because
I'm still trying to figure out how to explain that in a very clear way.
Tell me if I'm hearing this right. To me, it sounds like if me wanting to have a donor, right, so I can have my child, and I know Joe Blow up the street is willing, and he agrees he's not a parent, he's just donating genetic material, this and that, but because we don't go through a facility, we'll say, we do it the quote-unquote natural way, then people will say he's not a donor, he's basically just a deadbeat. He basically just got me pregnant and took off. So that's not a donor.
Kind of. So you don't have to do it through a facility. You can do it at home, but you have to use like a kit, think like a turkey baster kit, right? So you can do it at home. You should have a contract if you're going to do it at home.
Right.
And not be located in certain states where that's illegal. But you could do it at home under the Uniform Parentage Act, so long as there's evidence that the donor intended to be a donor and not a parent.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just the act of...
Yes, well, so if he goes in the bathroom and puts his sperm in a cup and then you use a turkey baster syringe type thing at home, that is donor conception. If he puts his pee in your V, that is not donor conception, that is reproductive sex.
Even if there's a contract saying this is the whole purpose?
Even if there's a contract. Donor conception must use assisted reproduction. Assisted reproduction could happen at home with a syringe, but you cannot put genitals together and call that donor conception. You similarly cannot put genitals together and call that genetic surrogacy. Genetic surrogacy must use IVF or IUI, right? And so what the provision that they're taking issue with says is that if there's an allegation that the child was not conceived through assisted reproduction, meaning the surrogate had sexual intercourse with somebody, not the intended parents, but maybe her boyfriend or her husband, and conceived the child, the surrogacy agreement is void, right? Because that person who she had sex with, if the allegation is true, the surrogacy agreement is void because that person she had sex with has a parentage claim to the child, right? It is their biological child. Her husband is the parent, not the intended parents, right? And so in that scenario, the surrogacy did not occur, and therefore the intended parents do not need to pay the surrogate unless their contract says otherwise, because the surrogacy did not occur. So they did the IUI, it didn't take, right? So they inseminated the surrogate, it didn't take. She went home, she had sex with her husband. Her husband is the genetic father of the child she is carrying. There is no surrogacy. The husband has a parentage claim. It's his biological child that would give him the parentage claim. And so why would the intended parents then pay the surrogate for her to have her own genetic child with her husband that she and the husband are then going to keep and raise or keep and place for adoption or whatever, or terminate the pregnancy? I don't care what they do with it. That's not the question. The question is, that's no longer a surrogacy arrangement. Right. And so you wouldn't pay the surrogate for an arrangement that did not occur. That is what it says. Okay. These groups are interpreting it to say, unless the contract bars you from doing it, you can have intercourse to conceive the child through genetic surrogacy, which is the exact opposite of what it says. Wow. I believe that they truly think this is accurate, an accurate reading of the bill. Mm-hmm. I think they think that because they believe that it is inherently unethical, and so they think people are just trying to sneak in additional unethical provisions. And so they're viewing everything through that lens. And so they're like, of course they're saying you can have intercourse and conceive the child. Because why wouldn't they think that? But that's obviously not what it says. But their worldview makes them think that. Does that make sense? Yes, that makes sense. Okay, we definitely going to have to revisit this for sure in the future. Every Wednesday, we're centering the voices of another corner of our community. I think they also just want to do anything to get the birth rate up. Yeah, I could see that too. So it's interesting. There are different factions within the conservative right now. So obviously there's like a large sect that just don't care about this. Then there's a pro-natalist group who do support assisted reproduction and do not view IVF as immoral for whatever reason, and generally are not pro-life. Then you have the pro-life pro-natalists. So they want more babies, but they want more babies of a specific type, and they want them conceived in a specific way, and they do not support IVF because they believe that embryos are people, and they will say things like IVF is an age cost of the unborn. And then you have the people who are against IVF and generally just really don't care about getting the birth rate up, and really are more like just Christian nationalists, but are not pro-natalist Christian nationalists. Wow, okay. Woo, yeah, that is a wealth of knowledge right there called Jamie. And I appreciate you being here big time. Thank you for participating in this morning and this evening. I will be in touch, and we will have this conversation again. Hopefully get some more eyes and ears in the space, more questions to be answered. Everybody here follow each other so we can stay connected. This is how we are building a huge wildflower team. Care Bear said, I would love to pick your brain. Yeah, check out our videos, everybody. I'm pretty sure there's a wealth of information there as well. Can I recommend a documentary? Please do. It's on Hulu. It's called Nuclear Family. And it follows the story of Raya Russo Young. She is a donor-conceived person with a known sperm donor, and she had 2 moms. And her moms and the sperm donor got in a disagreement, and the sperm donor sued for visitation and custody. And it follows that whole story of what happened in that case. The donor was also gay, and ultimately, before the case resolved, he died of AIDS. But he made a number of videos about the situation, which are included in the documentary. And it's just a very, very good view into why parentage that is not secure harms donor-conceived children, because it really does follow all of the tension and uncertainty that existed in her childhood because of this ongoing case and the stress between the parents and the donor. And I think it's a really, really good series on Hulu.
All right, I will check that out for sure. I have made a note of it. You said on Hulu, so let me make a note of that, where to find it.
And it's a nuclear family. There's a number of books.
Okay.
There's a random family, normal family, but this is nuclear family, and it's on Hulu. And it's a documentary.
Okay. I will check that out. Woo. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate your time and your intellectual property right there that you just shared with us so freely. Let me see. Yeah, I think it's a good time to wind down. We have officially been live. No problem. We have been live for 2 hours and 15 minutes. The goal is always between 2 and 3 hours, depending on how many people are here. We have had 153 viewers, 4 new followers. I would love it if we could get 1 more. 8 gifters. This live has made 32 cents. We've had 25.9K taps and 640 shares. Let me see what else y'all need to know. Oh, our league is a C5 in the top 80%. So yay. Yes, thank you to everybody who's contributed to this live, who's contributed to this space. Thank you to everybody that has tapped the screen, shared this out, participated in the live goal, gift gallery, commented either on the panel or in the chat. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for being here, Jamie, and you will be invited again. So yeah, the only thing.
Can I just say before we end the live?
Sure. What's up?
We're at 26.2K likes. Can everybody in the room just stay as she exits, and let's try to get her to 30K plus.
Thank you.
I know she'll really appreciate if you stay for her exit song.
Thank you.
Dance it out and tap it out, please, because she's providing an amazing safe space and a space that brought somebody like Jamie here to educate us. We wouldn't be here listening to Jamie if it wasn't for her providing this space for us to get educated. Mm-hmm. So I encourage all the 7 people in here right now to please tap it out as she ends her live, and let's get her likes up there. If you have a few gifts to give before she ends, that would be amazing too. Mm-hmm. And this is me saying this is not her. Mm-hmm. She does not like to ask for things, and so, I am happy to go on here and ask for them for her because of the space that she creates and the community that she's creating. So as we tap it out, please tap it out for her.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Care Bear. That really does mean a lot. I appreciate you big time. And everything she said is so true, everybody. All right, so the exit song that I have chosen, that I always choose, is We Are Family by Sister Sledge. This is a song I used to sing with my bio mom, brother, and sister at the end of our supervised visits. This is a supervised visit. We are being supervised by the app, who is deciding if they are going to promote or repress or suppress our live. We want our live promoted. We are being supervised by trolls. I'm so happy we don't really deal with a lot of trolls, but I know they're there. And we're being supervised by people trying to decide if they want to join our community or not. Do they want to be involved or not? So yeah, please do stay for the song. If you're not going to stay for the song, live your wild and wonderful life because you deserve it.